All right, so we're basically going to be talking about season 50. We just want to talk about the players,
Yeah.
And that's what this is going to be. All 24 players, 2 players per episode. I'm Kenny,
I'm Jay.
and we kind of bring two worlds together because I'm a day one watcher from the whole 25 years. You're a pandemic watcher.
I am a pandemic watcher.
So you kind of get those two worlds on the internet, and we're just going to talk about Survivor. No pressure.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. If you want a history lesson, go somewhere else. This is not a history lesson on all the players. This is just our thoughts.
At least for me, I think I have weird takes. Bad takes, maybe.
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
So today we're talking about Joe and Kamilla, and we're going to be talking about season 48. So, Joe, what are your thoughts?
Joe's immediately what comes to mind is Joe is a charismatic man. You know, he's strong. He's all classic Survivor to me.
Yeah.
I think he comes in loyal. And I already know what kind of game he's playing. I've seen it before.
For me, I want Joe, really either of these people, to be like one of the first boots. I'm starting right there. Like, when you cast 24 players on a season of All-Stars, I mean, this is one of the hard things about an All-Star season is that someone has to go first 5, And so if you get a Game Changers and it's a Tony going out early, that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I want a Joe or a Kamilla. We'll get to her, but I want them to kind of just go out early because season 48 was rough. I don't mind if they're the ones that go out early. And I think for sure one of those 48s will be first boot, second boot, something like that.
You don't think Joe's going to change his game from 48 to 50?
I do think he's going to change. Well, I know he wants to change his game. We'll talk about it, but I definitely feel like regardless, when you see 3 people from the same season come in and you're one of these other 21 people, you have to weaken that group somehow. So one of them is going to be targeted. Joe probably safer because he's going to be good for challenges. But then again, maybe they don't care about that this year.
Mm.
We got a few slides here, so let's get into our first slide. We've got, what do you want to see from Joe on 50? What do you want to see from Joe on 50? Do you want to see him change his game? What do you hope to see from him?
I do want to see him change his game, but I feel like it's unrealistic that he would. I feel like he's like one of those guys who is going to play loyal to the end. He's going to build a core alliance and stick with it. And I kind of want to see that who he bros up with in 50. Who's going to be his Eva, if there will be an Eva?
Right.
I
really I wish I'd looked at it before, even though I was kind of trying to avoid it. Now I don't think I can really avoid it because we're doing this video, but they know what the tribes are, and I don't know what the tribes are, but people know who the tribes are out there in the world. If you looked it up, you can see what tribe Joe is on, and then we would kind of have an idea like maybe who he's going to team up with. I don't know who's on his tribe, but I agree, like there are interesting players for him to team up with, like Coach or whatever. That might be coming through.
Maybe not. I don't know what these mics are like.
But
people out there? What do you mean
people on the internet, Survivor fans. No, there's a couple. I don't know. Unless I've seen you with my real eyes in real life, I'm kind of skeptical that there are other people out there. You've heard of the fake internet theory and all this. Yeah. So I'm a little skeptical that there are people out there. This is a reminder. Don't worry about liking and subscribing or leaving comments. We don't care about that.
Maybe don't even subscribe.
Don't subscribe.
No.
In fact, go to someone else's channel and unsubscribe. But don't subscribe to ours. We don't care if anyone watches this.
What else do you want to see from Joe?
I want to see Joe. So I had K Pros. So we got our K Pros and J Pros.
Yeah.
So I'm Ken. There is an evil side to Joe that he hides.
Oh!
I think Joe, and I've said this to you, and I'm sorry, I feel like because Survivor people are not like super famous and they're kind of like looking up for themselves, Joe, and he might watch this. This isn't like I'm doing a video about Johnny Depp or Scarlett Johansson, right? So I'm sorry if you hear this, Joe.
How dated your references are.
Scarlett Johansson? The girl from 8-Legged Freaks? No, I mean, I think that Joe is kind of a fakey. I think he's kind of a fakey. I think he's kind of like, I listened to his post game interview with Rob Has a Podcast before we did this, and he talked so much about like how self conscious he was watching the show, and I feel like that's because he's really, really, really conscious about the way he's perceived, and he wants to be perceived as this good guy that you mentioned. And I think that in reality, there's the cutthroat side to Joe that he hid the whole time during season 48 that was so boring.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I do want to see something more exciting out of him, and I agree there is something in there. I will have to say, who wants to be perceived, regardless?
I mean,
it's hard. I'm sure it's hard to.
Who wants to be
I don't even want to
as...
be. I don't even want to watch this.
Hey, what are you gonna do? I really, really think that there's a cool side to Joe that he is intentionally hiding because I'll show you this. So I've got their Meet the Castaway videos linked up in here. You haven't seen this?
Okay.
This is Joe's preseason who he is. Okay, it's not coming out audio. Oh, shit. Okay, it didn't come out audio-wise because I'm screening over here. I don't know how to get that to work. But basically, he says... like, oh...
Maybe we'll cut it in here.
Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Basically, yeah. So if we cut it in there, you heard what he said.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I want to be known as like my dad or my girl's dad, and it talks about his sister's domestic violence and everything like that. So it's things that come up even in the season, right? And it's like, I don't care if you're someone's dad. Everybody's got a dad. Like maybe I know that the show cares about him being a dad. You're on Survivor. You're not on Dadvivor. I want to see you like play Survivor. This is one of my things. Is just like there's people that go out and they're like, I'm going to be cutthroat. I'm going to be backstabby. He's going out there and he's got 2 arms around Eva's throat, making sure nobody cuts it. It's like do something out there, right? Like cut someone's throat. So I want to see that Joe who's going to cut someone's throat, and I want to see him do it immediately or get the hell off my screen.
All right, I want to see it too.
My cons is that being on the show, being cast, it's really just better to see him get voted out in the beginning than to make it to the end. So as far as like that's what I said, I want him to go out first or second. So it's like that's kind of my cons, is that as a player, unless he comes in and proves me wrong, he's got very little value to me as a Survivor viewer. And so that's kind of my thing about it, is that he, even though, and this is what I also would say, going back to the dead internet theory, is I see what people say about Survivor on Twitter. You see what people say about Survivor on Reddit. And sometimes we both see the other website.
Sometimes.
And then you start, in your mind, you start thinking to yourself, that's the way that people think about Survivor. That's not the way people think about Survivor. That's the way the internet Survivor fans think about Survivor. And the internet Survivor fans are like less than 5% of the people who watch Survivor. So on the internet, you see like how people perceive Joe on the internet. This is, sadly to me, Joe is the representation to a lot of people who watch Survivor of the next Boston Rob. This is the representation of like, Joe is the greatest player of the new era. And I don't see that at all. And I'm kind of like, okay, people at home are like rooting for Joe. And I hope that I get the Joe that I want. But it's like, in reality, I think there's kind of that disconnect between why is Joe on this season? And it's because there's so many people out there that like Joe. Do you see that? Do you think you fall into the camp that is liking Joe or hating on Joe?
I think I am in the camp of hating on Joe, though I think there is room for me to like him more if he changes his game.
Yeah. You said your pro for Joe was firefighter. Is that in case of an emergency or what exactly?
Firefighters are the best first responders of the world. They're number 1. And we've had some of the best firefighters in the world on this show.
I don't know about that. In fact, they're leaving their jobs to play Survivor. They could actually be the worst firefighters in the world.
What I mean to say is, some of the best Survivor players have been firefighters.
They have been firefighters.
You know, we've got Jeremy. We've got, I think Tom Westman was a firefighter.
He's a firefighter.
And he is one of them. I think this is.
You said also this is a good pull, Mike from 42.
Mike was a good. I guess so. He kind of, yeah.
I don't know
who do you want to be pulled out of a burning building from? You know, Joe.
Out of a bowling, yeah.
Out of a burning bowling bridge.
Out of a bowling bridge.
Joe, would you rather get pulled out of a building by Joe?
Yeah.
Tom Westman or Jeremy?
Honestly, my first answer was Mike. Honestly,
I knew you were gonna say Mike. You're kind of a Mike head.
He's kind of like the one that isn't looking at the cameras while he's pulling me out of the fucking fire.
Because there's always cameras.
There's always cameras at a fire. Hey, there's sometimes cameras at a fire. We've seen that on movies, TV. Yeah, I mean, to me, like, these other guys are, well, maybe Tom, but like, I don't know. And by the way, we're gonna get to, there is a slide for that, but like, yeah, you said his con was just kind of being corny, which is what I think has kind of carried Joe through the casting process, the show, the after show, the Emmys. Now he's been on CNN or something. I didn't even watch the segment where he's talking about looking for his sister's murderer.
Oh yeah.
I didn't watch it, so that could be telling tales out of school.
Like getting justice for his sister. I think he knows who murdered him.
Right, because that's what he said. He's like, it seems pretty obvious, right? Like, I mean, so I don't think maybe it's not looking for the killer. It may have been a different kind of 60 Minutes. I watch a lot of those kinds of videos. But
I do think, to this point, Joe's corny, and I think there can be a nuance of being a cool dad and also being cutthroat in a game. Like, I want to see that balance.
I did have Joe here. I had a Jeremy reference right here, so you already know that. Let's go to his next slide. Joe notes. Returning season archetype, I had Rupert, All-Stars, or Tom, Heroes versus Villains. This is kind of like, Rupert is kind of like his upside, and Tom is kind of like his downside in terms of like the returning season. So you got Tom here, the New York City firefighter. Rupert comes back for All-Stars. The archetype there is fan favorite season 7, All-Stars season 8, makes a deep run, wins America's favorite player, and gets $1 million the roundabout way. Nobody else has ever won $1 million without winning Survivor from Survivor. So
$1 million.
He won $1 million in America's vote, which I didn't even remember until we rewatched it.
Yeah. So
he won $1 million. I could see Joe, if he made a deep run, being America's favorite and winning, maybe $10,000 based on the current ratings. But then the downside is Tom comes back for Heroes versus Villains. Jeff calls him one of the greatest winners of all time. When I rewatch Heroes versus Villains, sometimes I forget Tom exists. His season that he won was kind of not that exciting to me. And then I think what really solidifies a winner in people's minds is doing good on another season after that. So he did so bad in Heroes versus Villains, which is objective. You could probably, or subjective, I should say. He did little things that made him maybe look like, okay, he's got some game, but he was just too big of a threat. He got knocked out, whatever. He didn't make any good connections there. But like, that's the downside to me, is that Tom is kind of didn't do good on his returning season. Mm-hmm. So who do you prefer between Rupert and Tom?
Rupert was fun and original.
Uh-huh.
Our first tie-dye king.
Yeah. Who was our second? I don't think you can wear, that's like retiring someone's number in football. I don't think you can wear tie-dye anymore on Survivor.
Yeah, Rupert paved the way. He was original. He was likable, naturally likable.
Yes.
I can understand him. Joe feels a little, dare I say, performative male. Like, I'm sorry, but he's fighting for a cause that we all stand by. but maybe he's going about it the wrong way.
Yeah, and I think that Tom, when he played heroes versus villains, he kind of felt like he had to defend this reputation too of like being such a like good player, trusted ally, like an all American firefighter. I assume dad, kind of an archetype, and then like I said, we just haven't seen him again. So I could totally see, Joe either comes back, makes a deep run, people go, oh, I kind of underestimated him, or he comes back, makes a really crappy short run, and people forget about him entirely.
Yeah.
So that's why I said my threat level for him is, maybe he's underestimated because the perception of everyone going on Survivor, they've seen 48 at that point, and they might think, oh, he was a goat. They pulled him to the end to beat him. Like I know that that's kind of what everybody, Kamilla, Shaheen, Kyle, they were all saying, like, we have to go to the end with Joe and Eva. So maybe he gets pulled to the end thinking that he's being underestimated. And then maybe he comes and he does something better. Got any Joe hot takes?
Joe hot takes.
I had a hot take, just before when I said he's evil, so maybe that's good enough.
And who doesn't have an evil side with it?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Stop being so two-faced. I think that's what I find so much more annoying about the new era, which is just like I think there's not enough genuine people uh, being their real selves on the show, and so therefore we don't get sort of just like people owning up to their their side to like be cutthroat for $1 million. That we're not watching you to show Survivor to our kids and be like, you got to act like Joe. Like I'll take care of role modeling. You take care of playing Survivor, which makes me think of like I don't know when this was going to come up for me, but like I wanted to talk about like who do you think is people bring this up a lot on Survivor podcasts. Who do you think is a villain if they did Heroes versus Villains Part 2 from the new era? Who would you say is like a villain?
Okay. You have to give me some time because I haven't had time to think about it.
You're right. I'm
But
putting you on the spot.
you're putting me on the spot. A villain? A villain? Controversial? Genevieve.
Oh wow, that is controversial.
Yeah.
Controversial.
I think she's conniving, and she can get people to work together in ways that other people can't. That's a really good skill. Rome and Saul. Who else could be a villain?
Rome was a common one that people bring up.
Rome is definitely a villain. Childish villain.
Q is one that people bring up.
Q is one of my favorites. He's a hero to me.
And we'll talk about him.
He's a hero.
I get that. That's why I think like a lot of it is flipped for me, where I'm like, the people that they say are villains, I think are like actually being real and honest most of the time, and they get painted as villains for that because they're just being like, I'm going to tell you the truth, like Savannah. And then I think like to me, the bar none easiest choice for villain in the entire new era that nobody on any of these podcasts ever brings up is Maria.
Oh,
this is bar none easily the head of the villains tribe.
She's gonna come after you.
Good.
She's gonna come after you. 100%.
I mean, but the reason that they didn't get painted, like, and I think Survivor subtly edited her as a villain throughout the thing. But like, I think she's up there with Russell. Like, she is bar none so easily the modern version of a villain because she's telling you that the reasons that she's making these moves is that she's such a good person. And we know that that's not, it's like, well, I'm such a good person that I didn't know who to pick for the reward, so I made them do rock, paper, scissors.
Jeff saying it was the longest time a person took to choose people.
Yeah. And so it's like, no, you wanted to pick Q, but you didn't want to be perceived as the person who's picking the one that everyone doesn't want to get fed in the whole thing. So you're like, I can give it a 50-50 shot if they do rock, paper, scissors to get who I want, or just like kind of shuck that responsibility. Oh, you wanted to not vote for Charlie because you hated Charlie, and you told people that the reason you voted voted for Kenzie was that you didn't not hate Charlie, you just felt for Kenzie as a woman and a mother and a future mother. And so it's like that to me is like if you read behind the lines, and it is so obvious that Maria is a villain. So that's why I think like as far as like Survivor and these people, like show me your villainous side. If you're Joe, if you're Kamilla, if you're any of these players that we talk about, like
Yeah.
we can't have 24 heroes. When you go back to the original heroes versus villains, it's like, is Coach really a villain? It's like sometimes it's like, yeah, you know what? Just put someone in that tribe and see what happens.
Yeah.
I wanted to grade people's hairstyles because I think it's very interesting to me. I couldn't put him up. You know what his hair looks like. It's pretty basic.
It is pretty basic. It's older man, he still has a good head of hair.
He does, I think.
I'd give him a generous 6.8.
6.8. I mean,
Yeah.
it's to me, it's just 2 out of 10 because it's just not memorable.
Yeah.
Maybe I could raise that up. We go to our next player
Sure, let's
for
do it.
season 50. Oh wait, no, that's not him. Kamilla is back. Such a interesting choice to be on season 50. What were your thoughts on Kamilla?
I really liked Kamilla. Someone who felt like Kamilla was someone who felt underestimated herself, and I think that was part of her Survivor story.
Yeah.
And she needed to prove something. I really like that about her.
Yeah.
I wish she could have gotten further into the game, building alliances with other people, but she just wasn't there and to do that. And I think her link to Kyle really it was a roadblock for her at that point. She's a short queen. We need that kind of representation, very hard to come by. Very few.
Do you want
winners.
to reveal your height? Is that something that you think that you don't want out there on the internet?
I don't want that out there on the internet. I'm going to keep that a secret. Hopefully I think this is shot waist down.
Heightpics.com or anything like that.
Heightpics.com. That's why I wore socks, because I didn't want my feet on Wiki Feet.
Right, Wiki.
Right. Because I have great feet.
Oh, look, I didn't realize that must be Mitch.
That's
right?
Mitch, yeah. It's not Shaheen.
Mm-hmm. And what is she wearing?
She's wearing one of the aliens from Toy Story, a onesie.
Okay.
You know those? After this time,
actually. I watched Toy Story.
He was born in the 18th.
What do you want to see from Kamilla on 50? By the way, I got these. I used some extra pictures here. Boston Rob is not a Survivor legend. Sorry, Jeff. Now, I have a thought on that. And that is just very simply, these are the hot takes that they've been doing recently. I don't know how long they've been doing this, or I don't know how long we can, use these as an example of something. But this is like a day one Survivor fan hot take, I think. Like, Boston Rob is overrated. She wasn't the only one to do it. I mean, I think that it's one of the other. I think it was David who also said for this season that Boston Rob, his was Boston Rob is overrated. Hers is Boston Rob is not a legend, which is just objectively wrong. I mean, like, you can think he's overrated, you can think he sucks. If you ask 100 people in America to name one player from Survivor, the most common answer is going to be Boston Rob.
Yeah. He's reached outside.
Yeah, he's the one that people know. There's just, I mean, I kind of agree that he's overrated, but I think like that's objectively wrong. But I just think like that to me reveals a lot about Kamilla, which is just like, I think she's kind of like a basic fan. I just think she's kind of like a basic fan. I think kind of came across. What do you want to see from Kamilla on 50?
I want to see her build a bigger alliance. I want to see her, because Kyle was her number one, and I can't recall if she was bonding with anybody else really outside of that to further herself in the game. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, from my recollection, and this is another thing about doing this thing, we watched 48 6 months ago, just like everybody else. It feels like it was 6 years ago.
It does.
We're going, like, we watched every season of Survivor with the exception of one season within the last 5 years, most of them within the last 2 to 3 years. I've watched it the whole time, like I said earlier. But like even that, we're kind of like sometimes we got to grasp at straws to remember even what happened, which I think the people watching this can agree with that.
Yeah.
That's their feeling.
I hope
Hopefully,
so.
because we did a little bit of research and we've watched a lot of these seasons recently, hopefully that helps. But that's another thing about Camilla's game, which is that I think it was not that memorable. So to even think about, what her game was, when people go, "What was her game?" They go, "Oh, she was Kyle's sidekick," which is not necessarily what you want. She worked on the Shaheen blind side with Joe by telling the lie about Shaheen, whether it was like having an idol or something like
That's
that.
right. That's right.
And then when they got tribe swapped pre-merge, her and Kyle pretended not to like each other.
That's right. That's right.
Which got Thomas knocked out.
One of the California girls.
One of the California girls.
Right.
And so those are kind of like her big moves, which to me it's like, so if I asked what she did without Kyle, it's nothing.
It wasn't a whole lot, unfortunately.
And in her Wob Has a Podcast thing, when it was like talking about Wob has a podcast, it was like, well, she openly was just like, people think that my head was spinning out there thinking about strategy 24/7. It wasn't. And that's what she was like openly like, but it wasn't. I was mostly talking to people about food and stuff like that.
That is and that's the thing I would probably relate to. You're so deprived of it. All I would be thinking about is, oh my god, some pastries from 85 degrees. Oh.
If you know what 85 degree is,
shout out
on someone else's comments, not ours.
Yeah, not ours.
Which I'm not going to hate on her necessarily that much for not thinking about the game strategy 24/7. We haven't been out there. It could be really, Sage did her post-season interviews for 49 today, and one thing she said to Rob was, he was like, "Would you play again?" And she goes, "To be honest with you, it was just boring."
Oh. Sit out there and do nothing. Really?
I could see it getting that way, and I could see it being harder to strategize. But at the end of the day, you are responsible for how far you get in the game to some degree. There are always exceptions of like getting screwed on a tribe swap or whatever it may be. She was never screwed as far as I can tell. She just believed that somehow she would get to the end without ever targeting the people in her alliance like Joe or Eva or Mitch, and basically being like, it'll come down to a final four and someone will win final immunity and the other person between me and Kyle will have to go to fire, and then she had to go to fire and she lost, which is just like a bad strategy if I'm even recalling that correctly, which I could be making a mistake there, but if I'm right, it's a bad strategy.
Can we talk about your pros?
K pros is that she's got the upside of Sari, which is, I think, she can come back for her second game and absolutely kill it. Prove that she actually was the strategic mastermind behind Kyle. Prove that she can build a whole new game and come up with more crazy, wacky ways to get someone out of the game. Like the way that Sari really became a legend in Micronesia, where it's like, that is so much of legend status, which is like, just like Boston Rob, first season, you might be memorable. If you don't win, you're probably not going to be called a legend. Second season, you come back and you either do something great or you win. Parvati's second season, Boston Rob's 2nd season, going to the end with Amber. Even Sandra's second season, winning for the second time and solidifying that she was as good as she said she was. A lot of times there are just those people who don't become legends until their second time out. So I want to see her come back. I think she has the upside for that, but her downside is Shireen. And some people are watching this going, who? You might be going who?
I remember Shireen. I remember Shireen because we watched her second season first.
Yeah, we did.
And she was white collar.
Yeah.
She was, what was her downside? She, I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, like, on the best case scenario for Kamilla is to come out and play so good that she comes back a third time, like Sari, and it becomes a legend.
Ah,
The worst case scenario is that she's the first person voted out, like Shireen was on Second Chances, and everybody kind of like goes, Shireen sucks.
well, maybe we'll get into this later, but the Aubrey downfall.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm assuming we're gonna get into Aubrey's career,
Of course.
but much worse than Aubrey because Shireen was the first person out, and also it was like she came back 2 seasons after her first season, or no, 1 season after her first season. So she came back to back seasons, which is 30-31. First person voted out, loved the game, went far ish, and didn't make any friends on her season, and maybe was a questionable pick for second chances. Gets knocked out first. That's bad. Kamilla, the truth is she just didn't really have a lot to say or do on 48. I think her being back, and also her being back with Kyle, is just really bad for her. I think,
Yeah, she's gonna have to work harder to break away from that, and then maybe, first time you're just getting acclimated to Fiji, and then maybe the second time around she already knows what it's like, she already knows what to expect, and she's going to come in a little bit more prepared. I feel like that is such a big hump for people to get used to the sand and the bugs. I don't know what it's like, but that's what I'm assuming, and I hope that she can turn her game around in some way. Maybe she does work with Kyle in 50 and uses that to her advantage to work with other people. I can see her working with Christian for some reason.
maybe. I mean, yeah.
We'll have to see.
There's so many players on the season, and we've got to look at those tribes. But it's like I could see if Kyle and Joe are seen as competition beasts for their tribes, then she becomes the person that you vote out in the same way that Natalie was voted out in Winners at War because she was connected to Jeremy. They weren't even on the same tribe.
Yeah.
Amber was connected to Boston Rob. She got voted out, even though just because it was like we need to weaken these links.
Sure.
So I think she's going to be a very early target. I did find it interesting that she got a confessional in the trailer.
Kamilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? She's not like, why? She's not really bringing that many people in, as far as I know. And it's like,
speak for yourself.
No, I know. Just in the same way, like I was going to say too, it's like everybody speaks to somebody if you're on Survivor. And, Aubrey speaks to you, she doesn't speak to me. Kamilla might speak to you, she doesn't speak to me. But I just think like that trailer was, we got Coach, we got Colby, we got Sari, we got Kamilla. So that makes me think that she could go far.
I hope so. If it's any indication of anything, I hope so.
Yeah.
She's my short queen.
But you don't want her to play another sidekick character.
But
again.
I don't want to play another sidekick character. She's got that fire that I feel like we saw in her season of like, I can do this. Like,
Yeah.
I'll show you. And I want to see that expanded.
Do you think Boston Rob is not a Survivor legend?
He is a Survivor legend because he found love.
That's legendary.
It is
It was really like 4 years into the history of reality competition shows. Yeah. Kind of started the whole find love and showmances and stuff like that. So that is legendary. I just think like I want a hot take, like, when Jeremy said that Parvati was only a 1.5 time winner, which you probably heard about on the internet.
Jeremy said that? I thought Jeff said that.
Jeremy and Jeff were on the On Fire podcast,
Right.
and Jeff, I think, asked. I didn't listen to it, but I think Jeff asked Jeremy, and Jeremy goes, "She's like a 1.5-time winner."
I thought somebody asked Jeff, and Jeff said that. And that's why
No,
she clapped back at Jeff.
she might have clapped back at both
of them.
Maybe she
Oh, I
only
didn't
clapped,
realize.
but Jeremy had to like even put out like, "What are you guys? Leave me alone, you guys. I'm just saying, like for me, this is my opinion. You can have whatever opinion you want, but this is just my opinion." And so, a Survivor winner, I think Jeremy is one of the greatest Survivor players of all time. If a Survivor player winner like Jeremy gets roasted for saying Parvati is a 1.5-time winner, this is not this is fine. Everybody says this. And it's like nobody raises a fuss about this whatsoever. It's so to me like I don't want a hot take like this. I just want the next players out there, if you're asked to give a hot take, tell me, like a real hot take, Tell me like
Tyson's not good.
Mitch is the greatest player of all time. Okay, we're not going to get any audio on that. Kamilla notes, returning season archetype. I thought maybe Dawn versus Blood versus Water. There's Dawn. And, Dawn's game to me was she comes back the second time with Cochran since they were together on the previous season. And then they go to the end together. Cochran wins. So she's kind of like a sidekick character who doesn't get as much credit for the moves as somebody else. Maybe they're not exactly the same, but I kind of just saw it as someone's sidekick to a winner. Kind of also not exactly a 1-to-1 comparison, but because Cochran won the second time, Kyle won the first time. But still, I thought of it sort of in the Dawn way of she might make it far, but is she going to get the respect of the jury to win?
You think Camilla's wearing dentures too?
I don't know, but that would be
hell really
of a reveal.
crazy.
That would be hell of a reveal.
Yeah.
That was another thing that I wanted to bring up about the way that people act in the new era. When Dawn and Brenda had that moment of looking for the, false teeth,
he cried.
I cried. And I didn't even know I could do that.
Sorry, to recap, yeah, looking for it and Brenda went down and found it, not what happened at the reunion.
That part, yeah, exactly. To me, that's like one of my favorite moments, if not my favorite moment of all time, because it was just a person at their lowest, scared, and they went to someone who's not even their ally, and they became allies because of this moment where she helped her, and it wasn't about the game. And I was like, that's actually, I don't ever even get touched, but I was like, that's touching. I love that moment. I didn't realize how much I love that moment. And then at the tribal council, Brenda has this incredible dare to like take out the dentures. Then if you really meant, you told me you were going to quit the game, and it's one of the most awkward, uncomfortable, tough, difficult, like people are freaking out about the Christina question about name my family members, which isn't new. It's been done since season 1, but they're freaking out about that. What Brenda did is not just amazingly like brutal to do to someone on TV. It's also that image of Dawn taking out her teeth is iconic. So I want the yin and the yang. I want you to be friends on the island, fall in love platonically, become close, stab the person in the back, and then when you do it, go to tribal council and like be raw again in a negative way. Now they go in, it's like if that happened now, it would be like Brenda would get up there and think about how she's going to be perceived by America and the people who watch Survivor and go, Don, I love you so much. You're like one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. When you backstabbed me, or you didn't even really backstab me, I guess. You just kind of like voted me out, which is totally cool. But do you think like maybe, I don't know, like could you possibly like totally like little bit regret it? Nobody's going to remember that. Nobody cares. That's why nobody remembers people in this era of Survivor.
And I have to say, maybe that's why I was so shocked by Christina's question here on 49, the jury question about naming each family member. but I loved it.
I
I
loved it
loved it.
too.
I want to see it. I want to see people squirm, and I love the audacity to keep to tell her, no, please try, please try and name all the family members. Um, yeah, that's really interesting. Don and Camilla.
I mean, it's just like kind of a, kind of a just a thought of a partner in crime who, really needs to sort of prove that she's there for something more, like in terms of strategy. I mean, I know that Camilla's kind of calling card is strategy to some degree, but that strategy was maybe more related to getting people out of the getting I wouldn't even say non-threats. Like, I think Thomas was a good person to get out of the game at that point. He was a great
Yeah,
person to get out of the game at that point. I think, Shaheen was a great person to get out of the game at the point. But where was your strategy to win the game? That's the part that was missing from Camilla's game. How were you going to win if, you know, if you had no actual strategy to get Kyle out of the game? Because Kyle was always going to beat you in most challenges. And I don't remember how you did in Fire, but I don't think it was very
she
good.
lost to Eva.
She lost to Eva.
Eva was freaking out.
And
I
Eva was
don't remember.
freaking.
Yeah, she's freaking out. Camilla couldn't even get a fire started, and then Eva won fire.
Great
Yeah,
recall.
thank you.
That to me is like, where's that? So, yeah. And I also liked Christina's question, but um, I just want to see, I want to see the heat turned up. I don't want one question like name my family members to be the controversial moment at a tribal council.
That's true. I
Because,
agree.
perfect because it's just that going back, season one was a question, you know, we know that the person who asked that question is not going to vote for you in a million years. So you're totally welcome to go, no, thank you, and move on. We've had people at there say, like, I'm not going to answer your question. Kick it. So it's like, you can do that, but like, that's not the thing that everyone remembers from Borneo. Everyone remembers Sue's, confrontation.
Of course, of course.
So next, some point, I want people to start hitting me up because guess what?
On other people's videos.
No, don't. Yeah, don't. Yeah, hit them up. Do that. Don't hit me up. But if you're on the show, hit the audience up because guess what? Whatever you think is on the other end of this being a good person on TV, it's not there. And all the people who went out there and were willing to be nasty and show their more controversial sides became legends. Sue was hard on Kelly at Final Tribal. She's a legend. She went back to Survivor All Stars. If she didn't quit the game and freak out, she maybe have played two more times. Who knows? Everybody that kind of brought it at Tribal Council in my mind is a legend. So that's all I have to say. Threat level, recency bias. I thought maybe Camilla's threat level is people could see her as a threat because she played the game very recently, and a lot of these older players, previous era players may feel like let's get out the people that know the current game as much as possible, especially because in Winners at War, all the older players got voted out first.
Yeah. I want to know what the divide is going to be like in
Yeah.
50 of between the old school, new school, and who from either side is going to cross that line? Who's going to try and make alliances on the other side?
Yeah.
Who's that going to be? So I'm really curious to see.
Yeah, I think that's something that we have to see. Like, did Survivor somehow even make the tribes mixed up, or will they do things to kind of assure that that doesn't happen in such a dramatic way? Because the fans are going to freak out if 12 of the first 15 people voted out are from the old era. Uh, Burning question for Kamilla is: will she just disappear in a cast of 24? Large cast. Not everyone's going to get screen time.
Yeah.
Whoever's in that bottom 6 to 10 of confessionals is going to be very forgotten.
Yeah, but you were saying earlier that because she had that little preview, that little confessional in the preview, is a possibility that she makes it far.
She might.
She
I mean,
might.
that's what I think. Like Kyle's got a higher threat level because he won, and Joe's got a higher threat level because he could be seen as someone who could be really dangerous if he gets to the merge. So if you thought like we're not afraid of Kamilla, you might think like she's the one that survives out of the trio the
Mm-hmm.
longest. I could totally see that happening,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that she necessarily moved me when she was on 48. If she wasn't cast, I think that nobody would have even thought twice about it. And you know, haters gonna hate, but I definitely feel like nobody can really dispute that on a grand scale, Camilla's got a uphill battle in terms of her confessionals. Hot takes, I guess that maybe I don't know. Maybe we already put some out there.
My hot take is she gets a thumbs down for not aligning with my one of my favorites from her season, Star.
Oh yeah,
Shout out Star Updates on Twitter.
oh yeah. Shout out.
I think Star Updates on Twitter might graduate high school or something soon.
Is that true?
I don't know.
I put no answer for hair grade because I felt like that's not a man's question.
Camilla's hair looked really good in her first season, but it looked strange in the preview that we saw.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Strange is better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. It is better than nothing. I want to know how your hair might change after coming back from Fiji. Have you ever thought about that?
Probably changes a good amount. I always think about like 26 days no shampoo. That's got to be a
Oh,
problem.
it's gonna be really rough.
But I feel like, does that really come across on TV? I never look at someone's hair and go, that looks rough.
Really, there were some people on 49 whose hair was super, like Rizzo's hair was so greasy at some point. It was just like thick strands just
Yeah.
coming down, like an anime character.
Rizzo was having some problems there.
Yeah.
Um,
What can you do?
Kamilla, yeah, most of her conversations were about food. Said she was obsessed with getting Shaheen out. Um, and oh, you know what, Kamilla, I do like this about her. Her strategy, or not even the strategy, but her archetype, her character, that Jeff just kept on like kind of like poking at, like her why or whatever. One of my mantras. They doubted me.
Yeah.
I always say this. Hey, it's like before I do anything, it's like, you know what? I bet everyone there is doubting me. So I'm going to do it. And that's how I get all my stuff done is I think that everyone out there is doubting me. That's the Camilla
It is
mantra.
the Camilla mantra, yeah. She went out there because her parents were clowning on her, and her family was clowning on her. How can you root against that? You know?
Not me. I guess I did openly root against her, but maybe she can turn it around for me if she, go because Hey, guess I'm doubting her. You know what? I'm giving her exactly what she wanted from day one. So I hope that you take that, Camilla, to the bank. Who from 48 would you rather see than Camilla and Joe?
You don't have any pictures about all of
Now
48?
we're learning on the fly.
Star, obviously. Shaheen, I would have liked. Well, I don't know. I've seen enough of him. Thomas. Thomas was one. What else was there?
Mitch, Star, Camilla,
Oh, Mitch.
David, Mary. You would vote for Mitch? Yeah, you know what? This is a big like thing too, where I think when Jeff's out there on 49, and I think he had done this in like 46, 47, 48, but it just didn't make the air. It was like, hey guys, 50's around the corner. When you're out there, if you end up looking like you played like Mitch, if you end up looking like you played like a Sage and a Christina, where your calling card was indecision to try to slide to the end, you are never going to play Survivor again in your life. Like, you cannot be the person that was known like, oh, I didn't make the move. Like,
Right.
even if it's a crazy bad move. So if I want Thomas there, I don't know. I don't even know if he made any moves, but I felt like he was going to make moves.
He was, and he got booted pretty early. He was making a lot of alliances with Bianca, I think that was her name.
I was going to say I would rather have Bianca than Kamilla.
Whoa, yeah, we didn't see much of Bianca to begin with.
Trued by a tribe swap.
Wow.
But she was screwed by a tribe swap. She was screwed by Cedric, and
Cedric.
you know, Skedrick, another guy that's never going to play Survivor again or come close to it. Mary, never going to play again, couldn't get anything done. And, you know.
Oh, I just remembered who David was.
Yeah, Nips.
Nips. Milk and Nips.
I took that from other people. I've heard it from Carolyn, but yeah. I'm not going to take credit for that, nor would I want to. But yeah, kind of just my last thought was, you know, the season 48 cast was not smart. I mean, like, generally speaking, I think the people that were going to win that season were Kyle or Kamilla. And once you got, or maybe Shaheen, and once you got past like final 8, nobody else really, because Star wasn't going to get any votes. Joe was obviously not getting votes. Eva wasn't really getting votes unless Joe, Eva had gotten to the end with Mitch or Star or Mary. You know, that's definitely seems like maybe one of Joe's, or maybe Joe's greatest downfall was the underestimating of Kyle and Kamilla as people, and also just being like, I'm so loyal. And like, yeah, you being loyal to these people, I think also like his loyalty was not really loyalty. It was thinking like, damn, I'm like killing it right now. And from what Kamilla said on her exit interview, it was like, no, I mean, I was, every time I wasn't talking at jury, I was, or talking on tribal, I was looking at the jury while others were talking, and they did not really like Joe and Eva at all. So, you know, that confidence to go to the end as a, he almost took himself to the end as a goat, you know? Mm-hmm. So overall, it's hard for me to gauge how good of players Kyle and Kamilla are, because almost everybody on that season was not a good Survivor player, and the ones that I think were the good Survivor players, like a Thomas, like a Bianca, didn't get far enough in the game to really have a chance to show how much better they were than the people who made merge.
Or maybe they weren't even better because they did get voted out early.
I mean, it kind of was like maybe in the sense of whatever the Green Tribe's name was with Mary and Cedric and Say, like, that's one of the worst tribes in the history of Survivor.
Yeah, they were bad.
So all 6 of those people were terrible at Survivor. They were bad at challenges. They were bad at strategy. Justin basically gave up. The pizza guy basically gave up right there when he was given on a silver platter to just not be voted out. Cedric was one of the worst in challenges I've ever seen.
There's no trust.
They didn't
There's no
know
unity whatsoever.
They couldn't figure anything out, even when they were going after each other. And maybe if Mary was the best player on that thing, I mean, even Mary, remember she played her shot in the dark?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, so you had 6 out of 18 people who just were like no good. And then Thomas got by Kamilla and Kyle before merge. So that was kind of like, there's like in sports, you can sometimes, there's a Super Bowl, but sometimes the real Super Bowl is in the 2 rounds or 1 round earlier, because those are the 2 best teams. So whoever goes to the Super Bowl is going to win no matter who else makes it, because they were really the best team, and it was the real championship game happened before. That's kind of like pre-merge Kyle versus Thomas versus Kamilla. You know, like Shaheen and Thomas versus Kyle and Kamilla. They got before merge.
Yeah.
Bianca gets swapped into a tribe without a vote and makes the mistake of just admitting she doesn't have a vote.
Yep.
So to me, you're right. Then, you know, we can say that if you get voted out 12th, 13th, 14th place, you weren't that good of a player.
You weren't good.
But I think you can also be a better fit for a future season of Survivor than someone who won the game.
That could be true too.
True too.
Any last thoughts?
Not really, but yeah, Joe thinks that his strat because he was asked too, like if you played the Survivor again, what would you do differently? And he was like, I would adapt to whatever environment I'm in rather than staying so strict to a strategy I came into the game with. So we'll see
Let's
how
see
that
it.
works. We'll see how that works for him. Um, my last thought is just I hope that I'm either proven wrong about not wanting players from 48 on the season at all, or they're voted out very early.
I hope I'm right about everything I
I don't.
said.
I don't see that anywhere in here. Uh, that's it. Next time we'll do two other players, and yeah, don't hit that like button. Don't
Please
subscribe.
don't.
Don't. This is not a bit. Do not do it. Do not do it. Don't share. Bye.